This is me, somehow finding myself at my first ever video game competition, but how exactly did I get here? Well, Sega Taiwan recently hosted its second ever CrossWorlds Tournament, and from the training to the actual event, so much has happened, both good
这小组的部分呢也打完了，等一下会来到
and bad.
What the Why is my screen blank?
That I wanted to talk about everything that led up to the competition and the drama that ensued. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So how exactly did we get here? Well, a few days after landing in Taiwan for the second half of my summer Asia trip, I happened to stumble upon a post from Sonic's Taiwan Facebook page about signups for an upcoming CrossWorlds event that was being hosted in about 3 or so weeks, and something to keep in mind at this point is that I didn't play a lot of CrossWorlds. Those who watch my content will know that I am mainly a Sonic Rumble streamer with very little CrossWorlds playtime on the side, and honestly, most of it is just me messing around in Grand Prix or time trials, so I had a rather modest goal going into the tournament. Train as much as I can within these 3 weeks, and at the very least, make it past the qualifiers. Now, for those of you who might be in a similar situation as me, I'll just be blunt. Training, especially for a game like Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, can feel more demotivating than anything else, especially if you want to train online, which, in my opinion, is kind of a necessity for events just like this one. As for me, I chose to target 2 specific areas with my training. The ongoing Legends competition to practice item management, and time trials to practice techniques and lines for the various maps that we'd be playing at the tournament. Going into LC6, I had a rather modest goal of just trying to get to Emerald and calling it quits there. However, this turned out to be harder than I thought, mostly due to the fact that people aren't really taking Legends comp seriously until they get into Emerald, and I ended up stuck hovering around 1770 to 1800 for pretty much the entirety of LC6. Time trials, on the other hand, were a significantly more helpful tool for practice compared to Legends comp, and I got what were, in my opinion, some rather respectable times by the time I had to roll up to the tournament. For those who are looking to practice, 3 quick tips. 1. Don't take world matches or Legends comp matches to heart, and what I mean by that is the results. 2. Practice with friends if you are able to online instead of world matches or Legends comp, because it's probably more accurate to what you're going to be facing at tournaments. And number 3, this is specifically for time trials, spectate the higher ranked players in time trials. Try to analyze what they do, and of course, do some runs yourself against their ghosts afterwards to see how you fare. But instead of using the comp they use, try to use the comp you plan to use at the competition or event yourself, because in my opinion, the tiniest gadget or car part change can produce massively different results when training as well as when you're at the competition. And with that, it's time for the day of the tournament. Hopping on the high-speed rail from central Taiwan to Taipei at around 8 AM was definitely tough given how much sleep I got the previous night, but after some last-minute practice and about an hour of travel, we arrive at the competition spot. Seeing this little area in the middle of Taipei City Mall definitely got my blood pumping, but it was still so surreal to see an area like this being dedicated to a Sonic event as someone who is still very new to the fandom. After getting checked in and testing out all the equipment provided, it was time for the races to begin. Now, before we continue, something worth keeping in mind is that Sega wanted us to log into our own accounts for some strange reason. Surprisingly, most of the accounts they had at the event, at least for Switch players, were not maxed out and were rather underleveled, with most car parts and gadgets being completely unavailable. I don't really understand how in the world this could happen, especially at an official Sega event no less, but one other consequence of this was that we had to log into our own accounts multiple times across multiple devices, as your spot switched every single round of this tournament. This was a really big pain point for a lot of players, including myself later on in the tournament, since keybinds and some other settings might not persist across consoles or computers and cause problems later on. Another problem that I think should be addressed is the matchmaking. The way Sega sorted players into brackets was by a random raffle, which would be fine if everyone at the tournament were at similar levels, but that was very much not the case. A little more than half the players accepted into the tournament were very clearly beginners or intermediate players, while others were a bit more on the advanced/expert side. While yes, it is true that it might be hard to actually make a good bracket with a list of competitors that are all over the place like what this tournament had, when you see matches like the kickoff match where even the next best player in the lobby had problems keeping up with the previous champion, much less the other two players who don't really seem to know what they're actually doing, the matches feel more like filler matches more than anything. And so, after witnessing multiple minecarts and metacomps secure their spots in finals, I was still a bit unsure, but definitely a lot more confident sitting down in my seat for the first round. After signing into my account and making sure all my gadgets and car parts were correct, it was off to a rather nerve-wracking Metal Harbor. At this point in time, I wasn't too sure how good my opponents are, so I was really concerned about underperforming. However, similar to the first 3 rounds, it seemed like I got into a lobby with 2 pros and 2 newer players, except I was one of the pros.
First place. Oh my god. Oh Jesus. Okay. Alright. I'll take that. Woo!
Now, going into Sand Road, I was a lot more relaxed knowing my competition. However, this didn't last very long, as this was when I experienced something that would become a recurring problem within this tournament: screen blanks.
What the fuck? Why is my screen blank? Yo! Huh? 什么东西啊?
Now, looking back at this footage, I definitely overreacted a bit too much when this happened, but when your screen blanks at your first ever video game tournament in general, I think it's pretty hard to keep your cool. After yet another screen blank on the final lap,
Why? Yo! What the fuck? 为什么？怎么样啊？ My screen blinked twice!
and somehow maintaining first place, I talked to the event staff about the situation, and their excuse at the time was that their PS5 and Switch 2s were not playing nicely with the capture cards they were using, which I bought at the time, but as the tournament went on, it was very clear that that wasn't the issue, which we'll get back to later. However, they did say that they were rather surprised at how I managed to keep my first place, and to that, I can only thank my fast reflexes and looking at the big screen whenever my monitor blanked. Going into Radical Highway, I wasn't really sure what to expect given all the technical difficulties, but nothing too extreme happened. I maintained a pretty big first place lead, the other pro in the lobby snuck up on me and hit me with a tornado, and I ended the race in second, which still put me in the lead over him by 3 points. Chow Park was one of the maps I hated the most out of the 8 maps we were playing in this tournament, and it definitely shows with how I accidentally air-tricked off the map and somehow landed myself in dead last. Thankfully though, I was able to somehow catch back up towards the end of lap 2 and maintain the second place to tie with the other pro player in my bracket at 54 points and qualify for the finals with him, which, funnily enough, were both of our only real goals for this tournament. However, there were also a lot of random side goals that popped up while I was waiting for the finals. While I was aware that Hoshino-san and Otani-san were probably still in Taiwan since the Sonic fan meeting that I wasn't able to attend the day prior just happened, I didn't expect to see them suddenly showing up at the competition and obviously had to go and grab a photo with the 2 of them ASAP.
哦，他有来哦。 哎，等一下，那是他吗？哦，是哦，他是那个 music producer 吗？哦，哇！他也有来，我说实在，那等一下，我想要去拍照哎。他一来，我有点意外，但是我又不意外。
After asking some other people if I could take a picture with them and getting permission,
抱歉，想请问一下，可以跟星野他们拍照吗？还是想问一下？
跟谁拍照？
星野他们。
你等我一下。
好的，谢谢。
可能一下DPlayz没问题。
一下 ，OK， 好，那这样子好。
I got 2 pictures with the 2 of them and unintentionally started a line of people who also wanted to take pictures as well. That was my bad. Sorry, Otani-san and Hoshino-san. Anyways, one of the other side goals that I had was to take pictures with the Sonic mascot that was walking around the venue every so often, which was rather easy since he was walking around for most of the event, and it also meant that I crossed off pretty much all of the goals that I had for this event with relative ease, which is always a plus. That being said though, it's time to head into the first round of the finals. Even though I did already achieve my goal of getting into the finals, I obviously wasn't going to just throw the first round. I wanted to try to get as far as I could, and things definitely got tougher from here. Damaging was the other pro who advanced alongside me in my group, and Orchid as well as Hank were rather fierce competitors coming in from Group 3. However, that wasn't the only problem awaiting me going into the best of 16, which I discovered shortly into the first round of Aqua Forest. Due to the technical difficulties on Switch, I was essentially forced to switch to PC. And while trying to fix my gadgets and car parts in a hurry, I didn't notice that Steam doesn't save your steering assist settings, and it was suddenly turned back on when I switched to Steam. Was this negligence on my end? Yeah, definitely. However, I don't normally play on Steam. As established earlier, I signed up to play in the competition using my Switch, so I'm not even sure if this whole situation is fully my fault. This also extended to other players as well, with one keyboard and mouse competitor going onto Twitter following the tournament to complain about negligence from the event staff, as they weren't able to adjust their keybinds properly before the match started and got eliminated from the bracket as a result. That being said, this problem didn't really get worse until Cronus Island later in the bracket, so we'll get back to it. I got really lucky and unlucky this first round, as Orchid also failed to skip due to the exact same problem. However, remember how the event staff said that the screen blinking was due to Switches and PS5s not working well with the capture cards? Well...
交叉世界确实要注意一下，你要是看后面的话，前面有车，你要小心一点。然后这里，哎呀，才刚说这个东西，马上这个车跟迎面撞上。
Yeah, even after switching me to Steam, I still experienced one of the worst examples of screen blanking in this tournament in the best of 16. Even though I still somehow ended up second, we were forced to redo the match due to my screen blanking. Not to mention how I had to switch computers due to said screen blinking, and because I wasn't aware at this point in time that steering assist didn't persist across computers, not to mention how I was being rushed by the event staff, I still ended up playing at a disadvantage despite turning it off before switching computers, and as a result got bumped down to 3rd on the second run of Aqua Forest, which put me at risk of elimination.
对，现在状况下有一个关键的这个传送金环没有飞跃成功。
Thankfully though, Egg Expo has no real off-roading shortcuts, so I was able to secure a steady first on that map with no issues at all.
这边已经追到第2名，中间前有机会出对方，哎呦，反向全攻，这个影响了这一局的 BT， 这边果然把他的运气给吐出来了，拿下第1。是的。
所以第1名是我们的 BT， 然后第2名 Tension， 第3名 Orchid， 再来是。
Unfortunately, I can't exactly say the same for Cronus Island, whose off-road skip at the very end of the lap is just too good to skip and landed me in 3rd place due to the fact that I couldn't even take it at all, which pretty much nullified the lead from Egg Expo, putting me just 1 point above 3rd place. This put everything on the line for me going into Wily Castle. Ultimately though, this was where poor planning from the event organizers played both in my favor and against 3rd place. Notice how there's a 5th person on this leaderboard? Due to how Wily Castle is in the mix for the finals, the event organizers decided that the host for all of our lobbies going forward would be one of their own accounts who would AFK in the race. Now, for those of you who might have been as oblivious to the problem this causes as I was at the event, the answer is simple. items. Due to the fact that there would always be a person in 5th place, very far behind the rest of the group, the way items spawned got extremely messed up, and players in a lot of the brackets going forward, such as Orchard in this bracket, couldn't really get good items to catch up, and essentially got eliminated because of poor planning from the event staff.
In the end though, I somehow managed to sneak up to 2nd place in this round and clutch my way into the top 8.
起跳击中有中关键的绿拳头，可以成功拿下了，但现在又有一个洛克话啊，又有一个磁铁，可是这两个好像都对前面的没有办法造成影响。一句话来说的话，那个直接比较随便拿下了，先点击下，好像是 damage 这边好像快一点点，对不对？没错，大概快1半个车身。是这个最后的金环差距呢出现了，没错。 好像是50金环对100金环，对，来看一下，哎呦 ，damage 这边第1名拿了下来，第2名是 BT， 没有，我跟你讲 ，damage 本来就是要第1名晋级的位置，是后面这个欧奇跟史诗这里，哇，欧奇可惜他刚才是有够衰，他只吃了一堆道具之后吃，然后呢刚才手上有道具，他有机会拼一搏，然后被7个技给切掉，没错，哇，好惨。
After somehow managing to make it into the top 8, it definitely felt like I was probably going to get out at any point now. The first bracket consisted of me, Sonic Boss, who was the previous competition's champion, Damjing, and the Werehog, who I will not try to name because I can't translate Chinese for the life of me. I came in 3rd during Aqua Force due to Green Glove that came too fast for me to react to.
第1名手中握了一个磁铁，等下还可以做最后的反制，最后的300公尺应该是没有人可以追得到。 那这边我们要进攻击，从那个 BOSS 这边拿下第一张赛道，再来是 damage， 再来是 BT。刚刚是有点可惜啊，他
Came in last on Egg Expo due to the infamous monster truck.
都弥补了这部分。换人是第一场景，这看一下名次，第1名是从那个 BOSS， 再来是 damage， 然后再斯特罗姆，再来是 BT。
Came in last again on Kronos Island due to a not so smooth crossworld and overall bad items, and barely lost out on 2nd on Wily Castle. Either way though, the 2 4th places in the middle pretty much secured my fate, and I got eliminated. Some might say this was a skill issue, others might say this was luck, but either way, I was rather happy with my placement, and I still got a lot of goodies, like this certificate signed by Tomoyo Otani and Kazuyuki Hoshino themselves, this little keycap decoration with the Sonic 35th logo, a memorabilia CrossWorlds VIP member card, a clippable 35th anniversary badge, and of course, meeting a lot of like-minded Sonic fans who all enjoyed the franchise. To the surprise of pretty much no one, Sonic Boss won the competition again, clean sweeping the rest of the finalists, even though it seems like someone was trying to stop him with this absurd screen blank not even 10 seconds into the first race of the finals.
好的，我自己感觉可能要重新开始了。
Putting all of that aside though, I really do hope that Sega Taiwan and maybe even Sega of America or whoever's hosting the World Championships in October can learn from this event's mistakes. Because as fun as it was getting to meet everyone at the event and actually participating in an official CrossWorlds tournament was, all the screen blanks, event accounts messing up item mods for actual competitors, event staff rushing competitors so settings and keybinds weren't set correctly, and even just the fact that competitors were being asked to sign in using their own accounts instead of using a maxed out account provided by the organizers really made this a mess of a tournament to participate in. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully this gave y'all an insight as to how CrossWorlds tournaments are ran in other places of the world, and of course let me know if you guys think this was handled worse or better than MomoCon in the comments below. Follow me on Twitch or subscribe so you don't miss future live streams just like the ones featured in this video, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Peace.